Ooh, so we had a wild day so far. Interesting topics about shootings and censorship of children's books because they're the wrong topic. And I'm reminded yesterday of the conversation we had about Eric Bentley. And it made me think about some things and realize some things. Eric Bentley was very, very hard on American drama. He did not like Broadway. He did not like lights that did not light up. He was European-centric. He celebrated the European theory of drama. He loved Strindberg and Ibsen and Kurt Weill, George Bernard Shaw. Those were his icons. In America, he couldn't really find anybody that he thought was worthwhile. Nobody was worth his time. And I sort of understand that, because those he supported, Brecht, were super geniuses, as he was, and he got a lot of credit for bringing them, the Europeans, to the American theater market. And when you think of American theater, there really are three that you can think that are modern American dramatists. Eugene O'Neill in the 20s, and then sort of at the same time, Tennessee Williams, 30s, 40s, 50s, and then Arthur Miller, 50s, 60s, 70s. Those are really the three big names. There are no other giants of American modern theater that are playwrights. And then I started thinking a little bit about Bertolt Brecht and the work that Eric Bentley did to make him important to the rest of the world. Without Eric Bentley, there is no Brecht. And Eric was so enamored of him that he got the same kind of bowl haircut that Brecht had. It was weird. And people were very concerned about it, like, what is going on? Is he trying to become Brecht? But I think he was just very impressed, and, like a teenager wants to get the same clothes as their idol, he wanted to have the same haircut, I guess. And then I started doing a little bit of thinking about Waiting for Lefty, which was a political drama in the 1930s, where people in the audience got up and rioted in the streets, and other forms of American drama that had resonance and importance beyond just the page, but on the stage. And then I started thinking about Marc Blitzstein, who was a very, very interesting composer and person. And the gruesomeness of his death. So we would begin with this. Marcus Samuel Blitzstein. Born in 1905, dead 1964. Dead at 58. He was a composer, a librettist, and this is when he became really known. And the 1930s in America was a very tumultuous time. You had people trying to unionize. You had the stock market going crazy. You had other people trying to make sense of it all. And there was a very famous musical, The Cradle Will Rock, that was directed by the super absolute complete genius of my generation and generations before me, Orson Welles. And it was supported by the WPA, the Work Progress Administration, which was a program to put people back to work. And if you happen to be an artist, or a painter, or a sculptor, you were paid by the government, by FDR, to resurrect America. And there are WPA paintings and post offices and murals and these beautiful works of art that were sustained by money from the government to put people back to work. It was a great jobs program. But even the WPA, like State Farm Insurance, couldn't handle a little bit of outside pressure. So the Cradle Will Rock was originally part of the Federal Theater Project, which was a subset of the WPA. And Orson Welles directed it. John Houseman, part of it, Mercury Radio Theater. And it was all about unionizing. The WPA shut down the project, the musical project, a few weeks before it was to open on Broadway. To avoid government and union restrictions, the show was performed anyway. With Marc Blitzstein playing his own music, playing the piano on stage, and the cast members singing parts from the audience. So they try to shut you down, and super geniuses like Orson Welles and Marc Blitzstein says, we're not going to let them shut us down. They can shut us down, but that doesn't mean we can't sing around a piano and do our show. And that's precisely what they did. That's how they fought back. Now, State Farm could have done a similar thing and fought back against the conservatives for their diseducation of young children, but they didn't. They gave in. Orson Welles and Marc Blitzstein did not give in. They moved forward. And this is evidence of them doing their show. That's Marc Blitzstein in the middle there, singing his songs. Here he is at the piano. Right? Getting ready to perform. January of 1938, America. This is how a play is produced when the government tries to shut you down. You don't let it shut you down. You stand up and find a piano and you get a chair and you tell all your actors, we've rehearsed this. Go do it anyway. And they did. So The Cradle Will Rock was a title with a lot of deep meaning that not many people recognize over the years since 1937. They don't know. They think it's a movie. They think it's a song. They don't know the history of The Cradle Will Rock. But now you do. So Marc Blitzstein didn't stop there. He also did the American translation and adaptation of Three Penny Opera by Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill. Discovered, really, made popular in America by Eric Bentley. Marc Blitzstein's works also included the opera Regina and an adaptation of Lillian Hellman's play The Little Foxes, the Broadway musical Juno, based on Sean O'Casey's play Juno and the Paycock, and No for an Answer. He also completed translation adaptations of Brecht and Weill's musical play Rise and Fall of the City of Mahogany and Brecht's play Mother Courage and Her Children, with music by Paul Dessau. Blitzstein also composed music for films such as Surf and Seaweed and The Spanish Earth, and he contributed 2 songs to the original 1960 production of Lillian Hellman's play Toys in the Attic. Okay, so established, well-known, super genius talent. And, oh, by the way, he also happened to be gay. And he was open about it. He told his family, told his sister, 1939, 1937, look, I'm a gay man. I'm living a gay life. This is who I am. In 1939, he was out. And you wonder, well, what happened? Well, let's take a look. This is his Wikipedia page. He was born, he died in Martinique. Okay, that's interesting. Martinique is an island in an overseas department region of France, an integral part of the French Republic. Okay, cause of death, homicide. What? If you don't know the story, this is his official page. What? Homicide in Martinique? What could that be? And then you do a search. Marc Blitzstein. How did he die? And you get pages returning as factual in a Google search. Hey, died in a car accident. Hey, died of a little bit of homicide. Marc Blitzstein was murdered. And then you look up, what is the difference between homicide and murder? Are they the same thing? No, they're not. And look at all these definitions. This one's rather simple. We'll look at it together. Homicide, while some might equate homicide with murder, the American legal definition of those two crimes are completely different. Sirens are coming for us. Homicide, simply defined as the wrongful killing of one human being by another. Okay. Oh, I didn't mean to kill you. Homicide. What if I intended to kill you because you're a gay man and I hate you? I don't think that's homicide. It's a broad term used to describe several instances where a crime committed against a person. Murders, meanwhile, are a subset of homicide. If you kill someone in a genuine act of self-defense, you have not committed a crime. However, self-defense must be proven, blah, blah, blah. Murder, muck duck, as they do not call it on The Office. In the U.S., muck duck is considered a capital crime and is a term for criminal homicide. In other words, killing another person in a way that cannot be justified is as reasonable to consider a murder or manslaughter and carries extremely heavy penalties, at least in the U.S., including the possibility of death penalty depending on the jurisdiction. So, what in the world happened to Marc Blitzstein? He's well known, he has money, he's famous. He's a good and attractive, beautiful man. Well, it's hard to find out until you start digging. And I found this amazing page. This is a training page for foreign diplomats. And it's a page that sort of brags about the good job that the consulate did in solving the murder of Marc Blitzstein. The 1964 murder of noted composer Marc Blitzstein in Martinique. And there he is. And this is the story of what really happened to Marc. In 1964, on the French island of Martinique, well-known American composer Marc Blitzstein was found on the street, badly injured and shouting for help. Blitzstein had been brutally attacked and robbed by 3 sailors after attempting to pick them up in a bar. He was a gay man, looking. They said no. He said, okay, I'm sure he's not going to fight him. But then they got a little upset, it seems. The U.S. Consular Office in Martinique, William B. Millam, rushed to check on Blitzstein in the hospital after the assault. Fantastic. That's what's supposed to happen. Millam went on to a distinguished diplomatic career, serving as U.S. ambassador to Bangladesh and Pakistan. Blitzstein tragically died from a ruptured liver caused by his severe beating. Blitzstein was best known for Cradle Will Rock, a 1937 musical addressing corruption, union organizing, prostitution, and other sensitive issues in a steel town. The WPA shut it down just before opening night. Blitzstein and Orson Welles and the rest of the cast went over to another theater with Blitzstein at a battered piano and actors singing from their seats in the audience. The show opened and became a musical theater legend. Blitzstein was also gay. Openly gay. And his murderers almost went free because of the stigma attached to homosexuality at the time. And this is in the 60s. Initially, Blitzstein told Millam that his injuries were the result of a car accident. See, that's where that started. Result of a car accident, and asked that that information be passed along to his family. Although openly gay, Blitzstein had kept his homosexuality private from his family and had briefly been married to Eva Goldbeck before she died at the age of 35. He was not secretive about that. He was very open about being gay. His ultimate decision to report the attack and identify his attackers resulted in the conviction of his 3 assailants of involuntary homicide It should have been murder and theft in 1965. Millam helped Blitzstein secure a translator and a medical examination from the police report. So it's so interesting. The angle, the context of this article is not really about the murderers or about Marc Blitzstein's life or being closeted or being out or being gay or not gay. I think he thought that for his family and for the PR that it's easier to say, look, I was in a car accident. I was not propositioning these sailors and they beat the heck out of me and killed me. That's not really the story you want to tell, probably. So this article is not celebrating Blitzstein or the murderers. It's celebrating this consulate guy who got involved. It's fascinating. Here we go. Martinique was William B. Millam's first Foreign Service post in a long career. Joining the Foreign Service in 1962, Millam went on to multiple postings in Washington, D.C. And this is what Millam wrote. This is his report, his consulate report about what happened to Marc Blitzstein. So I drove immediately to the hospital to see who it was and what I could do to help. I found Marc Blitzstein lying on a gurney. And there's Marc Blitzstein working with Kurt Weill. A lot of people draw a total blank at the name of Marc Blitzstein. I didn't know his name myself when he first dropped into the consulate to register as a foreign visitor. The consul brought him in and introduced me to him, and he said he was there to finish his opera on Sacco and Vanzetti. I may have seen him a couple more times in the 6 months or so he was there, but hardly got to know him. Then I got a call from the hospital one day. And there was an American whose name she didn't know, who had been badly injured in a car accident and was at the hospital. So, me, the consulate, I immediately drove to the hospital to see who it was and what I could do to help. And I found Marc Blitzstein lying on a gurney. He said he'd been injured in an auto accident and asked if I would get in touch with his family in Philadelphia. It also turned out he was beaten up by a bunch of Portuguese sailors. At least those were the guys who were convicted in a homosexual encounter. He, Marc Blitzstein, wanted me to arrange a full examination to see how badly he'd been injured. Now that's weird that the patient is not telling the doctors or the hospital, but his consulate, hey, I'm not feeling so good. Do you think you could check on me? Blitzstein then told me that he had misinformed me. Now that's very interesting. Is Marc Blitzstein's life passing before his eyes and he knows time is running out? Okay, I said tell my family I was in a car accident, but that's not what happened. I'm a gay man and I'm an openly gay man. It's 1964, 5. Let's just put it out there. In fact, Marc Blitzstein said he had been beaten up. He wanted to report it to the police. I arranged for a full medical examination and for an English-speaking doctor to participate. Then I returned to the consulate to send a second telegram with the correct facts to his family. I went back to the hospital to learn the results of the examination. The doctor came out of the examination saying, well, a lot of bruises, but he's okay. It seemed a happy ending. I returned to the consulate to do some other work before the end of the day. I went back to see him at about 6 p.m., and he was talking to the public affairs officer and seemed uncomfortable, but okay. So I went home, then to dinner at a restaurant about 8 p.m. There, I received a phone call from the PAO that Marc Blitzstein had died. Well, it turned out he had been beaten so bad he ruptured his liver. And the medics had missed it. It also turned out he was beaten up by a bunch of Portuguese sailors. At least those were the guys who were convicted in a homosexual encounter. And this consulate goes on to explain, hey, Blitzstein was a major figure in American music. His death made the front page of the New York Times. And I made the front page because the Times called me to interview me. Again, point of view, context. It's just fascinating. It tells you so much about what's going on. The interesting coda on that is that I had gone and inventoried his effects, shipped the stuff home that I thought should be shipped home, stuff like pots and pans I sold, sent a check home for all of that, but I had found in his house, way outside of Fort-de-France, as I said, all of his sheet music. I can't read music, so I just dumped it in a box and shipped it home with the rest of his stuff. A couple of months later, I get a telegram saying, where is the Sacco and Vanzetti score? Musical score. Well, I sent back a cable saying, I sent everything I found. I got a couple more cables, and obviously they were thinking I had somehow purloined the Sacco and Vanzetti score. I didn't quite know where this was going. And then, would you believe it, the New York Times carried an article that said the Sacco and Vanzetti score had been found in the trunk of Blitzstein's car, which he had stored somewhere in Brooklyn before he had gone to Martinique a year before. So what is the conclusion? He wasn't there working on the Sacco and Vanzetti score. He was untruthful for some reason about why he had come to live in Martinique. And that is the end of the story from the consulate's office in Martinique. Blaming the gay man for his own death? Seems like it. And I can tell you, you can work on a musical anywhere in the world, and part of it may be at home in Brooklyn in your trunk, and the rest of it may be in your heart and mind in Martinique. And when you have people like this looking after you, helping you into your death, it's not something I would celebrate on my foreign service page. And then, of course, we get the resume. No, not Marc Blitzstein's resume. No, not what he's done. What this Millen guy did, where he served. And I don't even know if it includes all the lists of people who died under his watch. But Marc Blitzstein was one of them. Marc Blitzstein found a death he did not deserve. And we have to find some kind of take on this. How do you deal with something that awful and that nasty and that convoluted? Well, I tell my writing students and my playwriting students to write your sorrows. And from there, tragedy and happiness can be reborn again. Drama is the magnitude of mourning losses, trying to regain what was once yours. And no real classic play in the history of world drama has been written by a happy person. They've been written by miserable, outcast cretins from society. And I also say, if you're looking for happiness and contentment, you will be much happier in a religious faith. Become a priest, become a minister. Don't become a dramatist. Because dramatists live and must abide in conflict. And when I was young, I was writing a lot of plays, working with local actors, and one of the actors I respected a lot said, all you do is write about death and blood and dying. Why? And I hadn't been trained. I was just writing what I knew and what I thought was interesting. And I said, well, because those are the hallmarks of living and the dangers of death. If you're looking for irrevocable change in a character or in a play, death is one way to get there. You start a play with the lines, "I'm going to kill you," and everything unwinds from there. So Marc Blitzstein had a beautiful, brilliant career and had a horrible, awkward, unfortunate, and unfair ending. Just like the rest of us.